Will Washington's 2025 schedule give them a chance to have a rebound in 2025? We shall see. Let's take a look at that schedule. Here is the full schedule, and we're going to break it down first with the non-conference. They got Colorado State, UC Davis, and on the road at Washington State. So no Power 4 opponent for them this year. Washington State, of course, rivalry game. I don't know if you want to call them a power opponent or not. I don't think you can at this point, but still, that should be an exciting game, a rivalry game there, and glad to see them continuing that rivalry. Let's take a look at who they play at home, who they play away in the Big Ten. They'll get Ohio State, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, and Oregon at home. On the road, they'll play Washington State in the non-conference. In the Big Ten, they'll play Maryland, Michigan, Wisconsin, and UCLA. So 5 home games, 4 road games. You add in the Washington State road game in the non-conference, they'll have total 7 home games, 5 road games, which is really what most teams in the Big Ten have. We've seen a few times where it might be 8-4 or 6-6, but yeah, you look at the home games: Ohio State, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, and Oregon. That's a pretty tough home schedule, especially when you look at Ohio State, Illinois, and Oregon. Those games will be very, very tough, but at least they do get them at home. Road schedule, not too bad. Maryland, Michigan, Wisconsin, UCLA, Michigan will probably be the toughest game of those 4. But the other 3 games are winnable. Those are winnable road games. So how about the changes from last year in the Big Ten? So they got rid of Indiana, Iowa, Northwestern, Penn State, and USC, but they add Illinois, Maryland, Ohio State, Purdue, and Wisconsin. So yeah, Penn State dropping off, that's good news. Ohio State, though, not good news. They also lost, Indiana, Iowa, USC. Those are pretty good teams, but they added Illinois. Yeah, I would say it's a pretty good trade. I think it's a little bit easier this year. Again, when you look at the total number of teams there with Indiana, Iowa, USC, 3 pretty solid teams, and they've got some easier games of Maryland, Purdue, and Wisconsin. So let's go game by game and take a look at this schedule. They will start off with Colorado State week 1, and then it's UC Davis week 2. They actually have their first bye week very early. When you have 2 bye weeks, I guess it's not as big of a deal. If they only had 1 bye week, then obviously this would be a terrible time to have it. But September 13th, week 3, that's when they'll get their first bye week. Then it's on the road at Washington State. So they do get a bye week before that rivalry game, and then you get into Big Ten play. Ohio State will be on September 27th at home, and then it's on the road at Maryland, back home for Rutgers, on the road at Michigan, back home for Illinois. So that's really the whole schedule. I mean, if you look at it, starting with Washington State, it's road, home, away, home, away, home, away. I mean, it's the whole schedule, back and forth. They have no back-to-back road games. They're only back-to-back home games for those first 2 games of the season. But yeah, let's just look at that part of the schedule there from Washington State to Illinois. That's pretty tough. You got the rivalry game, then you got Ohio State in there, also Michigan and Illinois. That is going to be a very, very tough stretch, and 6 games without really any breaks. We'd say Maryland's probably the worst team in that group, but they've got to play them on the road, or maybe Washington State's the worst team. But still, no gimme games there, no easy games. Rutgers is probably their easiest home game, but still, that's going to be a pretty tough stretch. We'll see what they can do coming out of that. Then they get that second bye week. They finish out with a final 4 games that are not too tough. You got Wisconsin on the road November 8th. Then it's Purdue at home, UCLA on the road on the 22nd, and they close things out with Oregon on November 29th. So yeah, Oregon obviously going to be a really tough game, but Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, those are 3 winnable games there. So I don't think that's too tough of a stretch. And all in all, I mean, there aren't any, what's the toughest back-to-back on the schedule? Probably Michigan and Illinois. There isn't a really brutal stretch, but they do have some good teams on the schedule. And again, it's very interesting that they go home and away, back and forth all season long. So how does this compare to other teams in the Big Ten? Well, we look at the winning percentage from their 2025 opponents from 2024, and you see Washington 38-43, 47% win percentage for their opponents last season. That's about in the middle. It is a little bit of an easier schedule, so that's crazy to have Ohio State and also Oregon on the schedule and still have one of the easier conference schedules, but that's just the way it works out. They've got some easier games mixed in there, so we'll see if that schedule is going to give them a chance to bounce back, and who knows, maybe even get into the running there in the Big Ten in 2025.